is evolutionary in origin. Like, there is a paper that says that uh, there is a paper that says that snakes were responsible for human brain evolution. In fact, so we had a long bad relationship with the reptiles, and one of the thing is that we can't understand them much because their way of lifestyle is much more different than the way we live, right? We are visually oriented animals. We appreciate color and beauty, but the snake's life is more of a chemical world. They communicate chemically. Their lifestyle is different. They appear and disappear, and they can live anywhere. They can do anything with a pipe-like body. So it's a very unique thing. So I feel that to know about snakes, you need to be really, really special, and you need to have a little bit beyond out of the box thinking to know this mysterious creature of nature. And probably snakes are the best kept secret of the nature, right? So for researchers, although we are doing a lot of taxonomy has advanced in our country a lot. Now from those traditional half-page description of species, now we are using integrated taxonomy in describing species, where we're using morphology, molecules, and behavioral research. And but what I feel is that more than describing new species, we should also emphasize on knowing the old species that are known. For example, if you open up the Smith's Fauna of British India book, you will see a lot of species that are known from half a page description. Okay, so the knowledge is not perfect. So I say that all the youngsters should have a preference of getting those old species and describe them newly, and produce very nice redescription of species with new natural history, information, so that we can intervene in conservation of those species. So the approach is should be beyond taxonomy now, and there is a great lacuna in ecological understanding of the group. So we need to know ecology of species to save them, right? And we do not know how long a snake live, what is the feeding ecology of a snake, how much a snake move. So these are big questions for anybody to take up, right? And then we can effectively save snakes, and maybe some of the species which are very narrow distribution and which are habitat specific. Thank you, Abhishek.
Thank you, Abhijita. That was, I think, a good takeaway message for all the youngsters and veterans who are there working with snakes. My next question is, of course, to Kedar. When we talk about snakes, I know all of us started with rescue of snakes. In fact, if you look at literature and the data that's available, snakes are one of the commonest rescued species when it comes to any other animal that is rescued, at least in India. It'll be also easy to say that there'll be more number of snake rescuers than the snake rescues themselves, and which is a good thing and which is a point of concern. I also know that Maharashtra, for example, tops in the number of snake rescuers and Sarpamitras. In fact, I started my work in Maharashtra, and I know that the number of people who rescue snakes, who are passionate about snakes, is quite high. So, what do you think has changed over time with respect to the snake rescuers in Maharashtra to start with, and overall India? Has there been a little more systematization in what they do, and how do you think your work with respect to policy has changed that?
Sure, Abhishek. As you said that when we started around 25 years back, we also used to do this catch snake and release it. So it's still majority areas is still the same process. Catch it and release it. Now we have understood that probably we may not call it a rescue as such as we define the rescue. It's just a catching and kind of a dumping or releasing snake somewhere else. That's what we are doing. So we started calling it long back as a human rescue than the snake rescue, because we catch snake because humans are afraid of it. It's nothing that snake is needed to rescue from there. But what happens, there is this huge energy into a lot of youngsters, and they think catching snakes and it's doing good and, all those kind of things. So it happened, but the worry happened around 10 years back, when suddenly in Maharashtra particularly, we started seeing a lot of snake friends deaths. due to a snake bite because of handling and because of doing all those kissing snakes and all those kind of things, everybody handles snakes. That's the curious point where they first get into the snake field. But over the years, probably they don't get a guidance, or that's only end into the handling of snake. They don't go beyond that. So we started doing a campaign called First Zero Bite campaign for the snake friends in Maharashtra, where in rescue there should not be a bite, you know, and you should not lose your life while you are doing a good work, kind of thing. So many, it's a collective effort. Many people join this whole program. It started with a Indian Herpetological Society in Pune, and then there are a lot of different people in Nagar. There is a group in Nagar. There is a group in Mahad. There is a group in Vidarbha. So there are a lot of people came together, and we collectively requested Department of Forest to help us in having some guidelines or having some SOPs for snake rescue in Maharashtra. Because what was happening, everybody was doing rescue and everybody was doing education awareness by using those rescued snakes. So if you just, often if I say there are 5,000 rescuers in around the decade of 2000 to 2010, every rescuer used to keep 4-5 snakes for education and awareness purpose. So you can imagine probably thousands of snakes were in captivity just for on the purpose of education and awareness, probably. So we started first going against the live snake shows, and then ultimately in 2018, Forest Department of Maharashtra helped us, and they published the SOPs for snake rescue, which has, I will not say which is perfect, but at least there is a first step in the right direction with a collective efforts of a lot of people who were concerned about this whole snake friends. And we used to say this, as you said, Sarpamitra. We used to say that Sarpamitra has started becoming a bad word, and we need to get that respect back for the people who are doing good work for snakes. So those SOPs has been established in 2018, but it's still a long way to go. One is the geography is a huge. In Maharashtra, we have too many people, and we need a lot of enforcing of SOPs, which need to happen at a department level. And probably it's happening little bit, but it's not the speed which we need to. And we just saw that video of rescuers, cutting cake and feeding the snakes. So that's across India. So I think we have only at the moment reached our metros, and we haven't gone to nearly probably 99% of the areas in India. We haven't reached those people who also need to follow certain SOPs for saving their lives, saving snakes' lives. And particularly, I think this whole energy of snake rescuers need to be used for conservation, for snake bite death mitigation, And so we have this raw energy. So whole objective of SOP is to harness this whole raw energy, which we having in these all youngsters and across the India for better purpose. And it has started as a first steps. It's a positive steps in Maharashtra happening. Probably you remember we are discussing to have this SOP at a national level. And there are many other states also doing a similar work. Like I think Rajasthan has a similar SOP. Kerala has a similar SOP. Probably other states will also come with the SOPs to do into their particular states. Unfortunately, the forest is a state subject, so it has to be a state level SOPs, at least, because national level SOPs sometimes in every state doesn't go. But you will be happy to know that national SOPs we are working on, the decision tree, Abhishek, is also in a Maharashtra SOP about whether to rescue snakes or not. It should start from there.
Oh, that's interesting.
That way, yeah. So probably it's a long way to go, but there is a positive starts in Maharashtra, and there are a lot of good groups and lot of people across Maharashtra doing good work through the SOPs, and they are doing documentation. They are doing all the technical information collected at the end of the year. Now they are having a maps from which species rescued from where, in that way. So I think it's happening good, but there is that video showed me today that we have a lot of long way to go still.
Right. Yeah, it's funny sometimes. That's the
Yeah.
So thank you, Pida. That was an interesting thing. And Jose, as I mentioned, started Indian Snakes with the whole idea of bringing all these snake people on on an online platform to discuss and talk. Jose, what do you think made you do this? Was it just the sheer number of snake rescuers? Was it the non-uniformity in doing these things? So, if you could just explain that, how did you intend to manage this vast group, and as Kedar said, the vast energy that is accumulative energy amongst these people.
Yeah. Thank you, Abhishek. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, Jos.
Yeah. Good evening to all. I'm probably the lucky person who is connecting with you all from Periyar in the middle of rain and mist. And it's a good day. It is World Snake Day. And yes, what we saw as the video in the evening, that was probably the most shocking thing that sadly reminded us that even though we have done a lot of things, there is a lot more to do. There is a long road ahead to get things done. Talking about Indian snakes, I should tell that it was in 2007 I registered the domain name because when we started looking for, I mean, I'm a rescuer still. I started rescuing snakes professionally in the 90s. And when I started looking for information on snakes, I was not getting too much of information. And the only then I wanted to, put up a website together to bring people together because there were a lot of people who were rescuing snakes across the country. And, first aim was to get some good photographs so that people can identify snakes and also share some information. So over the last 10 years, a lot of people helped. I mean, Indian Snakes is just a volunteer group. It is not a full-fledged organization or anything. It is a group of volunteers. So over a period of time, we came up with a better version of the website, and we started looking at a lot of data which is coming from various places. And in 2017, we started the Big Four mapping, like using a mobile app to map the presence of Big Four snakes. This was a project which was supported by Madras Crocodile Bank, and that is when I started looking at the technology a little more seriously. Like, why don't we use technology to connect people across the country? I mean, there are a lot of youngsters who are rescuing snakes. There are every day you are getting records of new rescues and distribution maps and everything. So today, when you look at it, we got a complete mobile app which is called named Serpent, which has got a lot of things built in, which has got a digital field guide which you can look at the number of snakes, you can look at photographs, and if you find a snake and you don't know what snake it is, you can actually take a photograph and you can send it to us. It will automatically reach 4 or 5 of the experts and somebody will reply to you. And we get a lot of such questions from people about identifying snakes, because what I really feel is that many times when people see a snake, they really want to find out whether it is a venomous snake or a non-venomous snake. A common man today, his first question whenever he sees a snake, including my parents, the first question is that whether the snake is harmful or harmless. So we try to tell people that it is a harmless snake, try to reach out to people and tell them that there is you don't need to worry about the snake. So that is one thing. The other thing is that the technology is now able to help you to find the nearest rescuer. So if you're a mobile user app, if you're a user of the mobile app, the app can show you what is who's nearby, who's in the vicinity, who can rescue. So my whole aim of the whole initiative of Indian Snakes is to bring people together, rescuers together, snake experts together. We also do a lot of work in snake bite mitigation across the country. So a single platform for everybody to discuss snake and discuss snake bites, discuss conservation, and put all this information in one place. When I look at my dashboard in the system, I get to see a large amount of data. Today, Abhijit was telling me that why don't you start writing papers on this? You're getting a lot of information, and probably that is what is the way ahead. Use technology to bring people together and turn this virtual networks into ground level network. What I can tell you is that today, if I need a rescuer in any corner of the country, I think we got about 400 rescuers who are registered now. I can call up someone and say that there is an emergency, or I can call up someone and ask him to conduct a workshop. So this is how technology helps us, So I'm a strong believer of connecting people, working together, building teams, because we should think beyond individual capacity. As long as I know a few things and I keep it to myself, it may not help the larger cause. So it is an effort to connect people. All 5 of us who are sitting together, we all met because we have a common thread, the thread of snakes. So Kedar is from Mumbai, Abhijit is currently from Dehradun, Vishal is in Kolkata, Abhishek is sitting in Delhi, I'm in Kerala. So it is a passion, it is the commitment towards conservation is what is connecting us, and I think that is what we would like to take it forward towards. Thank you,
Jose.
Abhishek.
Thank you, Jose. And people are asking about the app, which I've just shared the link on. It's a Google app,
Yeah.
which I've sent. I think it's an iOS version as well, so people can just search in the App Store for the Serpent.
Abhishek, it is only a what do you call
Android.
Android version.
Okay.
We don't have the resources for an iOS. We will try to get an iOS.
Yeah. Yes, that's fine. That's fine. I think right now we'll start with the thing. Coming to something that even Jose touched, and something Kedar and Abhijita touched. They did mention one thing: snake bite. They did talk about snake bite being the issue. We discussed, when we discuss about human wildlife conflict, we talk about tigers, leopards, elephants, nilgai, wild boar. There are different species, and largely it's mammalian. But I personally am of the opinion, and I'm sure a lot of people would agree, that people do come in conflict with snakes as well. And snake bite has been declared as a neglected tropical disease, which is an issue in India. And the recently published paper on a million snake bite study in 2019, which shows the grim nature of the problems sometimes in rural India, sometimes even in urban area, people face when it comes to snakes. Kedar did mention that a lot of rescuers are also involved with the snake bite problems, and we'll come to that. But what I want to know from Vishal is that when we mentioned snake bite problems, we know our efforts are concentrated in areas like Maharashtra, Karnataka, Kerala, southern India, northern India, certain places. But I know for a fact that Northeast India is not, the data does not come in, or the deaths are not recorded, or what is really the quantum, the intensity of snake bite. So I know that your work is largely focused on that in Northeast and in northern India. So it will be great if you could talk about that a little bit.
Thanks, Abhishek, and also thanks for having me here.
My pleasure.
Yeah. So like as Kedar Dada has clearly pointed out, that rescuers getting into situations where they get into bites, and there has been a spike in deaths in Maharashtra among Serpamitras. So I think there's this testosterone level in young guys who kind of get carried away, and I feel along with awareness and the kind of SOPs Kedar Dada and the Forest Department of Maharashtra are bringing in, and you guys have been discussing about a national SOP as well. I think somewhere we need to bring in more women. We need to bring in more women who can come in and who can show all these guys that it's not about testosterone. It's about common sense. It's about being safe, being doing the right things. Snakes, if you can learn to ride a bicycle and bike safely, you can learn to handle and rescue a snake safely. And I do feel that women in this field can drastically change the entire scenario that's happening with snake bite across India. And as Abhijita has very, very rightly pointed out, about, it's not just about describing new species. It's about understanding the diversity we have with snakes, the old snakes, where they sit, how they sit in the molecular analysis and in biogeographical analysis, and if we can use that data in answering some of the tricky snake bite questions in different biogeographical parts of India, that's going to be very, very important. And as you all know, Serpent's app, as Jose has been pointing out, is amazing. I am trying to be a small part of that. So he has given me a task which I haven't been able to do till now. But I have started it. I have kind of collecting whatever Northeast snake photos I have, and I'm going to email that to him. Coming back to snake bite that you have asked in North and Northeast India, where we have been focusing our snake bite research since 2014. It's grim. We don't have numbers. We don't have data. We don't have a concrete platform on which we can stand and say these are the medically significant venomous snakes that are biting people in the north and northeast. And we can't say if the anti-venom is working against those venoms. The present polyvalent Indian anti-venom is working against those venom or not. We can't say that. We have just now started analyzing our samples. And from those analyses, what I can tell you is things are pretty serious. Things are pretty sad because there are a huge number of other medically significant venomous snakes outside the big four. And when we talk about big four, even there is a huge amount of variation in venom composition when it comes to the big four itself. So, an anti-venom designed from the venoms of Maharashtrian spectacle cobra. When I say Maharashtrian spectacle cobra, I don't want to stress on political boundaries. So when you are dealing snake bites in India, you are not dealing with state boundaries. You're dealing with biogeographies. You're dealing with areas that kind of demarcate where the variation starts, where the venom start varying. If you design an antivenom from Maharashtrian spectacle cobra and you expect that antivenom to work in Kanyakumari from a spectacle cobra bite in Kanyakumari, it may not work. So, so what we have been doing lately is we have been asking for permits from the forest department in the northeastern and northern states where we are working. So we are doing a pretty good sampling. So this is one more aspect that maybe we'll come back later in the discussion. So we are sampling snakes. We are looking into the venoms. We're characterizing the venoms. We're looking at whether the present polyvalent Indian antivenom from at least 4 leading companies who have the maximum supply to different state governments, are capable of neutralizing those venom samples. And sadly, they are not. And it's a big concern that that we keep telling in our awareness programs to people that if you get bitten by a snake, go to a hospital. That's the only place where you can survive. If it's a venomous bite, if you're envenomated, hospitals are going to save your life. But when you're researching, when you see that the antivenoms are not giving full coverage, on what ethical grounds do you ask people to go to the hospital? So these are the very, very raw areas that needs to be discussed. And because you raised the issue of snake bite, so I term snake bite as a very wicked problem. It's a wicked problem because there are too many stakeholders. So if all these stakeholders don't come together on a single platform and address each question in a very collaborative way, there is no answer. It's going to be the same as it was 50 years back. So I think that and also to stress, if you just look at Google and also look at some of the papers, there are only about six epidemiological studies in India, very regional, one hospital, one district. So we don't have data. We don't know how many people actually die. And in the million death study, the entire north and the entire northeast is blank. There's absolutely no data. So there is a huge amount of work that's left to do when it comes to snakebite. And all the fraction groups who are working on snakebite separately in India need to get together, need to collaborate together, need to share information. And that's how we are going to address the snakebite issue of the country. And regarding that rescuer thing, I think we should rope in more women, proper women.
Yeah, that's an important point which you forgot. And yes, of course we know there are a lot of women snake rescuers who are working, and they're doing a good job. They're scientists, rescuers, and stuff. Coming to thank you, Vishal. Coming to, as you said, epidemiological studies are limited. I also know that when it comes to snakes, most of the studies have focused on taxonomy or distributions or new records in certain areas. My question is next to or my or what I comment I'll need from Abhijita is why do you think that is that a problem to start with, and if it is, why do you think on what can be done to improve it? You'll have to unmute yourself.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you repeat?
Sorry, my question was that as Vishal also mentioned that there is limited epidemiological studies. I know there are limited ecological studies. I know there are limited behavioral studies, venom studies, and mostly the studies and research have been focused on taxonomy, identification, distribution. So is that a problem to begin with? And if it is, how do we solve it? How do we manage this?
Well, I think the knowledge gap on science is a big problem for every conservation issues that are dealing with. For example, Vishal's topic is a very relevant when we are thinking about human health, because venom is one such potent chemical arsenal that is evolved primarily for food gathering, and secondarily that has been used for defense by snakes, right? And as Vishal said, there will be tremendous amount of geographical variation in venom properties just because they are eating different things at different areas, right? So the rodents that are distributed in southern India, they may be completely different from species that are found in northeast India, right? So there should be a difference in venom proteins, right? But so this study should be taken up in that way. Where Vishal is doing is very relevant. But I also want to take out another point, is that you know uh, collecting venom or milking snake for venom, storing it, and then going for a anti-venom production is a very professional task. It is not a job of a commoner. If anybody thinks that any rescuer milking a snake and that snake will be venom will be used for any kind of medicine, that will be a wrong thing to do, and that is illegal also. So we need not to go into every aspect, because there are professionals like Vishal who will be doing that part, but our part may be more into either ecological and behavioral research as a researcher, where we are here to help young students, because some of the very basic questions regarding snakes are not answered. For example, why a snake is long, why the body shape of a snake is long, that may lead to some of the most intricate question in evolutionary biology. Probably that may something to do with the ectothermic nature of their life. That's why they need not to bother about how long they are, because they are dependent anyway on the external heat, right? So they can have as long body as they want, because they will be anyway, they do not know fur or feather which mammals or birds need it to cover their body. So they can be really long and still survive. So these are certain things. For example, when we talk about conservation issues, for example, if you see, snakes are one animal that are most number dying on the road, right? So snakes are the most abundant animal in our roadkill studies. Why so? So that's the question that researcher can ask, and then again they can go to the behavior and the biology of the species, and that says that snakes are mostly thigmotherms. That means they take the surface heat, and that is one of the reasons that all the nocturnal snakes that come on the black tar road surface to get the heat, and that's where they get killed. And researchers can just simply walk on a road, collect the GPS information where the snakes are getting killed, and make a hotspot mapping of that road segment, inform it to the forest department that these are the area where most number of snakes are dying, please do a mitigation measure. So these are some very basic questions can lead to a very big conservation issues, right?
Yes, yeah, very interesting topics, research topics that you mentioned, and some very simple things that people can do, like you mentioned about roadkill. Just a simple common sense, if people can apply, and it will definitely answer a big question. Thank you, Abhijita, for making that clear. Now coming to Jose, I think as you yourself mentioned that when you were discussing with Abhijita about the data that is coming out in Serpent, and how so do you think the information that is being collected in an app, in a digital platform like Serpent, can it be used to advance the science of snakes, its distribution, etc., and snakebite?
Yes, Abhishek, absolutely. That is the aim. And that is what we are getting. In last 1 year, when we started experimenting with the which is collected through Serpent, we are getting distribution maps, because every information which is collected through the mobile app is coming with a GPS location. Also, we have an option in the app to report a snake. So there is already, we have given an option of roadkill, like you found the snake dead. So we got already about 10,000 records, which I'm absolutely sure Abhijit will be looking at it very happily. So we can, filter this data and find a lot of answers to our questions. We are already collecting a lot of roadkill data through the Serpent app. And yes, so this is the way forward to collect information from all over the country regarding snakes and snake bites and distribution and timings. Even with the current data, I'm able to find out which is the most common snake which is entering into houses, what time of the day you will find more human snake conflicts, because most of the cases where we are getting information from the field is where a rescuer went to attend a snake rescue call. So that's a human snake conflict. So there we are getting exact information from the ground that, we made app in such a way that people cannot attach photographs from their gallery. They have to take a photograph, and it has to have a GPS location. We had a lot of initial trouble, but now it is working smoothly, and we get a lot of data. I mean, today I'm looking at my mobile. Today we got more than 17, 18 rescues already done from all parts of the country. So this is a large amount of data is coming in. Yes, what we need is now a scientific mind to analyze this data and come out with results. And that is the aim of this kind of networking. Also, I would like to add that with this kind of a network, we are able to reach out to a lot of people who educate about snakes and snake bites. And that is how we reach out to people, and that is how we engage with more people. And that is how we, we turn snakes from, this dreaded demons into beautiful animals around you. So that is what we are looking at.
Thank you, Jose. That is what I think this app and this kind of data will definitely add into, and technology will definitely aid into a very less understood species. But like everything else, technology also has a dark side. And I know when I was discussing with Kedar about certain issues that he faced when he was doing the zero bite campaign with his rescuers and all, he faced. So Kedar, would you like to explain what dark side of technology did you come across?
Thanks, Abhishek. Before I get into that, the dark side of technology, 2-3 things just want to mention what extension the Vishal was talking about, more women into a snake rescue field as such. We already have a lot of women snake rescuers in Maharashtra, and unfortunately they are also part of that list. Some of them have died while handling. So the testosterone theory maybe is not a perfect theory to talk about when it comes to snake rescue. Whether it's a woman or man, everybody wants to show off. So I'm not so much sure about having movements on that. So that is one part. Second thing about what Jose was talking about the serpents and app, and what Abhijit was talking about the research part of it. If you have to do a real research on snakes, you need to go in a forest, find a snake, do a research. But snake rescue activity, as Jose was saying, or the people who go and attend snake calls are the best researchers if they start collecting data. And it's not about the basic research, but also about the policy making into those areas, So most of the snake rescuers, Joes, unfortunately, are into more little urbanized areas, of those where cities. So, but I can tell you, if you find those data through serpents and through other systems, you will know that what population of snakes used to be there 10 years back, and now what kind of species you are getting. Like in Mumbai, I can surely tell you that 15 years back, when I used to do a lot of rescue myself on the ground, there is a lot of calls about wine snakes and a bronzeback tree snakes, where over the 15 years, those snake calls are not there. Call numbers are same, but probably they are different species, So that means that whole tree canopy continuous cover is lost in Mumbai, where these particular snakes used to. So a lot of habitat destruction also can be pointed out through this data for conservation efforts. So those 2 points for Jose and Vishal's earlier discussions. Now going back to a black side of technology, whatever we are doing is still a tip of iceberg. I work into a rural and a lot of tribal areas in MP, and it was an eye-opener for me when I started working there last year. I can tell you one example. I met a patient, a snakebite patient, where a relative was taking a cell phone and stuck to the patient's ear. So I asked them, what are you guys doing? They said, no, there is a mantrik some 100 kilometers away, and he is chanting mantras in his cell phone. And this receiver cell phone was connected to a patient's ear. So in rural area, the technology is used for this kind of things a lot. And that mantrik was paid by Paytm, by the patient's relatives, And this, I saw 4 cases in MP, in a rural area. And then I saw advertised on cable TVs in rural areas about bichu and saap ka zahar utarne wale, their mobile number, their Paytm and Google Pay accounts given, and contact them, So this is what happening in a rural area where technology is used for all the bad things. And what we are trying to do is still more addressed to probably urban and semi-urban areas. And I think we need to get more into regional languages. We need to get more into those regional languages into rural areas with our technologies to talk. Probably we can also use the similar kind of those Bhagwan Shankar images and each other in Nagin photographs to attract people there, to give a good message, But in rural areas, mobile technology probably is a similarly used as we use in urban, but it's used for many wrong reasons, not like what we are using. Probably somewhere I think we need to also have this kind of discussions in the regional languages, or at least in Hindi, because more than 80% of those snake rescuers group which we have across India do not converse in English so much. They need to talk with their local languages. So what one of the challenge which we also have in Maharashtra and some of the MP, that many of the materials or these SOPs which we talk, or a science which we talk, is many of the times we talk in the English language, and getting it into a regional language into rural areas is also as important. Also, the similar to the rich snake rescuers across India, I think we need to start getting more development into regional languages with these apps, with these our technologies, with our information, and get it there on ground. At the moment, it's still a tip of iceberg only in urban and semi-urban areas.
Absolutely. I think very interesting anecdote that you mentioned, and technology we have seen even Saperas say, as you mentioned, that Saperas on the phone call would rather actually would take care of snake bites and all. And most of these are non-venomous bites, so person anyways recovers, and they think they did an excellent job. I know Vishal, who works a lot on snakebite and works in extremely remote areas of Northeast area. Both Abhijita and Vishal have worked in a lot of remote forests. Vishal, have you faced any problems like these, especially when it comes to remote areas where you think awareness is low, the snake species are unknown, of course the anti-venom does not work, and the whole idea of Big Four is still very rampantly integral to their society. Have you faced similar problems in some of the areas?
Yeah. So yeah, we do. We have kind of faced amazing circumstances. Like, I can just give you an example of last year when we were in Sikkim. We were sampling in Sikkim. We were in a place called Jumthang, and we were supposed to go and meet the doctor at the primary health center there. It started raining so heavily we couldn't go out of our accommodation. Instead, we went the next day, and the entire day it was there was no power, there was no electricity. So next day morning, when we went and met the medical officer at the center, we discussed snakebite. We shared whatever literature we had to help her. She had absolutely no idea about how to manage a snakebite in that kind of a setting. And so when we asked her, "What do you do?" She said that we refer the patient to Gangtok, which is about 2.5 to 3 hours car drive in a mountainous terrain with frequent landslides. And when we asked that, "Do you have anti-venom?" She said, "Yes, we have anti-venom." So we wanted to see which company anti-venom and what batch number it was. So they brought the anti-venom from the fridge, which was a liquid anti-venom, and there was no power backup for the entire night when there was no power. So you can imagine, that the liquid anti-venom has to be maintained in a cold chain, and and there being no power in that area and no power backup, we all can understand how effective that antivenom is going to be, even if she uses that antivenom on a snakebite patient. With the idea of Big Four and with the idea of medically significant venomous snakes, there have been quite a few interesting observations on our part. So when we were sampling high elevations in the Himalayas, particularly in the state of Himachal Pradesh, we were about 2,000, 2,100 meters in Chamba district, where we went to the communities, we showed them pictures, we showed them posters, and we asked them, which are the snakes do you see here, and which are the snakes that bite people. We luckily came across a man who kind of treats snake bite. It's kind of a mantrik, tantric. We also were lucky to see a patient at his place. And then we asked her what bit you, and she said she identified Himalayan pit viper, the Gloides himalayanus. And while returning from that mantrik's house in the evening, we saw a Russell's viper. We saw a Russell's viper on the road at 2,100 meters, where it snows an average of 4 feet in the winter. So, we are used to seeing Russell's vipers in Gangetic plains. We are used to seeing Russell's vipers in paddy fields. We are used to seeing Russell's vipers in this type of terrain. And when you come across a Russell's viper at 2,100 meters where it snows, you kind of start thinking, okay, what's happening? Why the hell is this snake here? And then when we went out and we started talking to the community, they kind of started telling us that they have absolutely no worry about the Russell's vipers there, because there's no conflict. So as Abhijit rightly pointed out, ecological studies, looking at how a species fits in what kind of a geography and what kind of a habitat and what is the interaction between them and people, that defines conflict is another very, very important aspect of research that can aid our work with venoms and antivenoms. So, for example, so let's say we are trying to create a realistic list of medically significant venomous snakes for Himachal Pradesh. Now, technically, Russell's vipers will come into the list because there are conflict in lower elevations like Mandi, Hamirpur, Una, and those areas, Bilaspur. But once you cross Chamba, go up, there's no conflict with Russell's vipers there. So how do we integrate this information into designing a proper antivenom for regions is the biggest question. And that's why I stressed in my first interaction that this is a wicked problem. There are many stakeholders, and we all need to come together to address this. And as your question suggests, in the northeast and remote areas, on the practical aspect of our work, we are always on our toes because, like, say we are dealing with snake bite research, and when we are dealing with snake bite research, we are definitely looking for venomous snakes there, and we are looking for venomous snakes for which there is no antivenom, and we are sampling them, we are catching them, we are handling them, we are hours and hours away from any kind of medical help, and for these work there is so limited funds. It's absolutely limited funds. So we it's so low that we can't even pay for a life insurance or a health cover or something like that. So these are the challenges that we have been facing when it comes to the research part. When it comes to people in those areas who are facing snake bite, who have died due to snake bite, we can't conclude. We failed to conclude, to understand the problem in a very holistic way, because one, there is data deficiency. There is absolutely no data. Two, there are absolutely no syndromic approach to treatment or syndromic studies relating species to syndrome, so that we can have some sort of a hypothetical understanding of which snakes are biting, which snakes are causing what kind of environments. So these are the challenges in these remote areas where there is absolutely no data, and working conditions are not that great, and the biggest problem being very, very underfunded research.
Absolutely, I think that's all the funding is usually on charismatic species, and it becomes difficult for researchers to work on snakes.
Well, absolutely.
Thank you, Vishal. Interesting overview of the work and the kind of things that you face. Let's look at today being the World Snake Day. A lot of people, we saw birthday cakes being cut for snake. It's a snake day, and people have wished happy birthday to snakes. So instead of delving too much into what's bad is happening and snake bites, conflicts, I'd like to take one case study or something that each of our four panelists would like to say something positive, like I can ask Abhijit that in your opinion, what has been the advancement with respect to you being a scientist in one of the foremost institutes of India, Wildlife Institute of India? What has been the scientific advancement in case of snakes? What's the recent advancement, or that's a positive note that we can talk about? You are muted, Abhijit. Sorry, unmute.
I'm audible now, right?
Yes. Absolutely.
So I think one of the good thing that has happened in ophiological research, because I'm not saying herpetology, it's ophiological research in India. It's that there are some game changers who had brought a lot of changes. Yeah, and I particularly want to mention one name, and his name is, and good friend of all of us, especially of Kedar Bide, is Ashok Captain, right? So he is one person not known to many people, and obviously not known to all the snake rescuers. He has changed the whole perspective of snake in our country in last 20 years. I remember that the first photograph that really attracted me was a very close-up image of the head of a pit viper taken by Ashok Captain. I read it in Century Asia. And and after that, whatever photograph Ashok Captain took, and the book that he has written after that with Romulus Whitaker, that actually has changed a lot of perspective in Indian snakes. Now, people first started looking at how beautiful a snake can be. Like if you see the beauty of a green rat snake of Northeast, or a pit viper, or in that case, a Dendrolephis or a bronzeback tree snake, they are remarkable. And that was not known 20 years back, right? And after that, now we know there are a lot of things. So that was one of the benchmark thing. And after that, because of modern technology, we have better distribution data now. Okay, so we are now confirming species identity and species occurrence based on genetics. So we are more precise now, and that is very, very important when we are going for a third level of research, that is venom study, where geographical specificity of venom is one of the major question. If so, I think distribution data is very important. Otherwise, you can't go for that level of research. Okay, but one thing we are still lacking now is conservation issue, and there I need more people, especially, for example, population data. We do not have population data for almost all the species, but still some people can take it up, because many of the snakes, they carry patterns on their body, particularly blotched or bands. And if somebody can take picture or photograph of those patterns and blotches, then they can do a mark recapture study, okay, to identify individual and go for a population level information. We have just published a paper to show that almost 97% animals can be identified by using pattern recognition software. Okay, so these are certain areas, and these are advancement, and I think we have more to go to understand the evolutionary aspect of snake biology. That's what I want to say.
Thank you, Vijita. Very interesting to know, and I'm sure when the paper, if the paper is not out, we definitely read it once it's out, and does look positive when it when you look at these things. Kedar, do you would like to add something positive with respect to Maharashtra, MP, zero bite?
Yeah, means there are too many positive things happening in the research with venom research. Also, as Abhijit said, that other research like population and everything is still lacking. But he also said Ashok was always phenomenal in his work, and there is a new edition surely coming soon on Filgard of Snakes. So, a lot of positive things happening in kind of research, as well as the SOPs and venom research with IISC and what Vishal's group doing. Lot of things happening, but for me, I always take my positivity from small cases on a ground level, what we do, and I will give you the best positive thing happened for me. Now Vishal is doing a lot of work in Himachal, but I did a small project with 42 villages in 2014 in Himachal, again in Bilaspur district. And two things happened after that whole project which still stay with me, and I try to reproduce the same thing in all other rural areas where I work for, is that we have also trained some of the jhadpukwalas in those villages. Fortunately, in those villages there are no those traditional tantric and mantrics, but some teacher or some ward boy or somebody becomes a jhadpukwala in that villages only for snake bites. So I remember incidents after the training of those jhadpukwalas. In one snake bite case, a case was in 108 ambulance in Himachal, and a jhadpukwala was sitting with the case by moving his branch of neem leaves on the patient and calling a doctor at a PSC and telling him ki, I am bringing one patient to you, he doesn't have any symptoms, but I'm bringing that patient to you. That was a small change need to happen in every rural areas, because a lot of time people trust the local people, and if we can get their trust to take people to medical professionals and go with them to give a lot of assurance, then that will work. And second thing, in another village which we are working in MP, where grass cutters was getting beaten. There were 20 cases in 1 year of a snake bites in a grass cutters. So we just told them to use some local, like go there with two, dupattas. Those were all women, Vishal, who used to go and cut the grass. So take two dupattas, put at one side, walk 15 paces, put another dupatta, take a stick and just move the stick between two dupattas, for 4-5 times, like sanitizing that area. And then cut the grass into only between those two dupattas and repeat that kind of thing. So this kind of lot of small prevention, if all our snake rescuers and people working in rural areas can teach villagers, I think we will probably sort out a lot of our snake bite cases itself in those areas, because we are agriculture country and we have agrarian economy. So we need to also look at the snake bite exposures into agriculture land more. So these are the two positive things which I think happen, and we need to take it on a further level into every village level. But I have, if you just ask me what is my present hopes for, I hope that people will start using serpent and we can get it into regional languages into different areas, because so that will give us a lot of data for Abhijit and Vishal to work on. It's a huge, but it's going to be huge task to analyze that data also in the end. And I think we need to get more into rural area and regional languages. That's our future. From this, I think we need to learn a lot in that.
Thank you, Kedar. I think yes, there is positivity in all these things, and from you to let's go to Jose, who's in the forest, is in the most positive environment right now. Jose, what is your positive take? Say, considering from the last World Snake Day, I don't know what we did for last World Snake Day, because we were all outside, and now that we are inside, we have more time to do such things. So what has become positive in the last 1 year?
Abhishek and others, the positive thing, let me talk about an incident, because we are supposed to talk about things what happened with us. The most positive, one of the positive thing happened yesterday night when I got a call from someone who was a user of the mobile app. He found a snake and he asked me what snake it is. I mean, I got the question and I answered and I told him that it is a chiggered killback, it is non-venomous. The person called back and asked me, I mean, are you sure it is non-venomous? I said, yes, absolutely sure. There is nothing to worry. He was worried about his kids and dogs and everything around. But he said, I have got neighbors and people here who are telling me it is venomous. It is a dangerous snake. I told him that it is not. So maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes conversation with him, couple of conversations, and finally he agreed and he told me that, okay, if you say so, if you say that it is a non-venomous snake, I will allow the snake to go out. So that is a big shift. People are now, looking at ways to, solve the problem. I mean, if you are confident and if you are able to support them, we can reduce a lot of the killing. That is one thing. The other incidents, which is a little more encouraging, which also I should talk about, something which happened with me personally. I was a total snake rescuer for a long time. I used to rescue snakes in Delhi, and one fine day I got a call from the PCR, and we used to be in touch with the Delhi police, and they said there is a snake bite case, and we have to remove the snake and all. So when I went to the location, I found a 3-year-old or 4-year-old girl who was, dying because of a cobra bite. We found the snake, we got the snake, but then the kid was supposed to be taken to the hospital. I tell you, whomever is watching this, I tell you, that was the moment in my life that I understood, if I have to talk about snake conservation, I have to talk about snake bites also. That kid died in my hands in a PCR van. It took a lot of time to convince the family that the kid can be taken to a hospital, because they wanted the kid to be taken to a local traditional healer, and literally with the help of cops we snatched the kid away. But it was unfortunate, the kid died. From there I can see that there is a lot of changes happened over last few years. Now people are talking about snake bites very seriously. In last couple of years, I can see that there is a lot of interest coming in from governments, from policymakers, from researchers. We are finally looking at finding a better anti-venom. I don't know whether it will be found immediately or not, but everybody is researching. A lot of research support is coming from various corners. WHO itself is leading it now, supporting the efforts to find a better anti-venom or regional specific anti-venom, because we are using anti-venom which is almost 100-year old. I mean, the technology of anti-venom. So we are looking at reducing the snake bites. I think there is a major policy level attention shift towards snake bites. Whether you say the government data is right or wrong, because the recent study is actually showing that we lose about 50,000 plus people in this country to snake bites. So I'll say that one of the positive thing what is happening is the policy change, the attention which is given to snake bites. We are understanding the seriousness and severity of the problem. So that will definitely ensure that there is some positive results will come. The other thing is that we all experimented with various things in snake bite mitigation. I will talk about a small place in Chhattisgarh, Pithora, a small hospital where a single doctor is treating snake bite patients, and these are the people who actually inspire us when we look at a lot of difficulties, when we talk about a lot of problems in snake bite management. I'm talking about a doctor whom actually I met during a train journey, and she asked me that I was talking to somebody about some snake or snake bite or something. She asked me, I mean, do you know something about snakes? And we had a chit chat, and she said, I have a small hospital. It's a not-for-profit hospital, but I don't have anti-venom. Some of my friends actually helped me to get anti-venom for this hospital. Even today, I mean, this is 4th or 5th year. Even today, we are supporting this hospital with anti-venom. And in fact, we are talking about positive things. A friend of mine who was getting married, she said, Jose, can I, gift a ventilator to this hospital? So she donated a ventilator to the hospital back in 2014. And we managed to get some money to support them with anti-venom. And the positive thing what I learned is that the hospital is treating, a good number of snake bite patients every year, and we are able to save lives. So this kind of grassroots level efforts, they don't have the big infrastructure, they don't have the a jazzy, what do you call a super specialty hospital. These hospitals, these doctors, these rural doctors are actually saving a lot of human lives. So that is actually indirectly or directly supporting snake conservation, because this doctor told me that many times people bring snakes to their hospital, and she told me about one incident. With this I will stop. It was a crate which bitten a lady, and her son caught the snake alive in a plastic jar and brought it to the hospital, because they all think that you have to bring the snake to the hospital to identify the snake. And she was in critical condition, and she was treated. And next day morning, this doctor was telling me that I saw this boy carrying this bottle out, and he took it outside the campus and he was releasing it. So he never killed the snake. So she asked him that, the snake almost killed your mother. Why are you leaving it? He said that it is also an animal. It has the rights to live. So I think if we can reach out to people and, tell them that, how to manage the situation, how to coexist, how to sort this big challenge of snake bites, a lot of conservation will happen. People will be saved, and I think that is what we should look at. We should rather look at solutions. I think Abhishek, I'll borrow our Vivek's words. Like, conservation is an art of possibilities. You have to. It is not just science; it is an art, and you have to look at possibilities.
Absolutely.
And that is what we should look at. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you,
That's
Jose.
it, Abhishek.
Thank you, Jose. And before we move on to audience questions and comments that are coming, very interesting engagements on Zoom as well as YouTube, which I'll shortly take. I also noticed that there were very young boys and girls who were there participating. They have unfortunately left now. I wanted one or two of them to actually come up and say something. Vishal, would you like to add something, one positive note that your experience has given?
Yeah, there had been a couple of positive things. Since we started working in Himachal Pradesh, we had been in touch with the Directorate of Health Services there, and one particular secretary who was holding two posts at the same time was very proactive. When we presented him with the information what's happening with snakebite across the country, he initiated meetings with top level officers in the directorate. And Himachal Pradesh is at the moment in the process of establishing the first state level task force of snakebite. So that's an amazing achievement, I would say. And also with all the efforts, with all the data, with all the research that we have been able to put in, West Bengal government has initiated an EOI asking the manufacturers to submit their proposals for a West Bengal specific anti-venom. And at the same time, we have been in discussion with a couple of anti-venom companies to start researching Northeast specific anti-venom as well. So these are the very positive areas that have developed since we have started working on snakebite in the North and Northeast. And the best part was, a couple of years back, uh, my mom let me release a cobra that we found in our backyard. So yeah, that was fantastic. So I just wanted her to kind of say that, okay, so look, this cobra was there in the backyard, let her be there. She said, okay, fine. So we just let her be there. So that's like, we start changing things from the house, then we go to the neighbors, then we ask the neighbors to take it forward. And I think, yeah, a lot of change is happening, a lot of positive vibes are there, a lot of anti-venom issues are being resolved, and we are at the moment looking at the Northeast specific anti-venom and the West Bengal specific anti-venom.
And yeah, it's so important that your parents and your family start believing these things, and then it spreads out like a herd immunity, these things. So very, very interesting insights that I got. I know I have spoken to all of you, but I mean, this kind of interaction was very, very interesting. I didn't even know that the time we have spent quite a lot of time. So I'd like to spend some time with the comments and questions that people have asked on Zoom as well as YouTube. And there are a lot of interesting questions that have actually come up. Discussions: longer snake, poisonous snake, venomous snake, larger snake, beautiful snake. So because I understand there's a lot of audience who have worked with snakes, as well as there are a lot of people who just like to know about snakes. So maybe at the end of it, all of us can just put up some resources for common things that a lot of people have asked. Where can they read about snakes? Where can they know about snakes? So some of the recommendations that I'd request all four of you, you can just put it up on the chat, or we can always send it on email to the whole people. Coming to the questions, Vishal, I think the one of the question was talking about the snake bite scenario in West Bengal, and especially with respect to Russell vipers. Somebody did ask about it. Would you like to add something to it? It was, I can tell you who it was. Just give me a second. I think it was Sandeep Sarkar. Who did ask, want to know snake rescue picture and Russell viper bite case in West Bengal in general. Yeah.
Yeah. So Russell's vipers, Russell's viper bites are very common in West Bengal. Unfortunately, in the last 6 or 7 years, we have been seeing that the antivenom is not giving much cover for Russell's viper bite victims. We had multiple patients in multiple tertiary level care hospitals where the patient was brought in within half an hour of the bite. And the doctors evaluated, and the patient was pumped with 20-30 vials of antivenom, but the patient died within 24 hours due to multiple organ failure. And like right now, we cannot analyze and pinpoint what the reason was because of the death. And then we started seeing trends of Russell viper bite patients not responding to the present polyvalent antivenom, and that's very concerning. Again, once you cross Malda district of West Bengal towards North Bengal, Russell Viper distribution stops. You don't get Russell Vipers in North Bengal. It's very interesting, though. If you look at the landscape in Alipurduar and Jalpaiguri, it looks so favorable for Russell Vipers and even monocellular cobras, but they are not there. If they are there, they have not been reported yet. So that's one thing. If you are living in South Bengal, be careful. There are Russell Vipers around. Yeah, they have just started dropping babies. There are hundreds and thousands of babies around you at the moment. Watch where you step, watch where you put your hands. If you get bitten by a Russell Viper, immediately go to any government medical hospital in West Bengal where antivenom is available. Yeah, so don't fool around with Russell Vipers. Don't try to catch them. Don't try to take macro shots with a 40 lens. Yeah, so take care. Don't fool around with Russell Vipers. That's all I can say regarding Russell Vipers in West Bengal at the moment.
Thank you, Vishal. The next question is to Abhijit, since it's a question pertaining to Northeast. Vishal can also add. Somebody did ask about there's a concept of praying to the serpent god in Northeast and in Bangladesh, fearing the snakes. People fear snakes a lot and succumb to religion than a scientific approach, which also leads to killing of the snakes and some taboos that prevail. So, what steps can be taken to mitigate these issues? Abhijit, unmute.
Yes. So as this whole discussion was about, one of this major objective was to create awareness. I think awareness is the key issue. Still, when it comes to snake, our knowledge again, when it comes to rural area, it's almost goes to zero. So there comes the need of a lot of people who can actually go to those area and actually start awareness activities. And I think there is a great role of NGOs to take up this, because I think there is a great level of awareness needed at panchayat level. And if Sarpanch and Panchayat can be aware about all those issues, that will be a great contribution in mitigating all this false belief and misunderstood facts. And the other thing is that somebody also asked a question that if children get bitten, how to aware those children, because children play in the countryside and they get bitten. So again, if from the panchayat level, maybe for the elderly people, but it is this village schools that is where we need to reach out. And it is as important as awareing even a very highly educated doctor, as well as the village kid who will be playing outside. So I think schools, panchayat levels, at the medical fraternity, everywhere, there will be a huge opportunity for NGOs to work. And there we need government support, actually.
Right. Yes, Abhijit, thank you. And then that was the leading question, actually, the next one that somebody did ask, that how can we sensitize rural children, talking beyond awareness. So I think reaching to the grassroots level would be an answer to it. And I think that becomes a very important step for the NGOs, for rescuers as well, to really do those things. The next question is to Jose. When we talk about awareness and mapping and things, so one of the questions that is, of course, is there a database, state-wise database of hospitals which has anti-venom? And secondly, the follow-up question from somebody else was, do you think an awareness about anti-venom is also required? We do talk about awareness about snakes, but anti-venom awareness, is it also required? Because people don't know that there is something, that anti-venom is the only antidote for a snake bite.
Absolutely. There is a need for making people aware about anti-venom, because we are looking at a large number of snake bite deaths from various parts of the country which are reported. We are analyzing this data using the system. In most cases, we find that the victim was first taken to the local healer, the traditional healer. And when things went really wrong, the patient was taken to the hospital. So people are not aware about the anti-venom or the efficacy of the anti-venom. I'll tell you why it is happening. Because in most cases, 90% of cases, the snake bite is because of a non-venomous snake. And they take the patient to a local healer, and the local healer's success rate is 90%. So out of 100 cases, he will cure 90 cases. I never came across with any local healer or a traditional healer who talked about a non-venomous snake. All the snakes are venomous for them. So that is how their business runs. So you have a local healer who has got a 90% success rate, and then this 10% of the people who are actually people. I mean, if the patient is not in a good condition, this fellow will give an excuse. He will usually say that इसका तो बहुत ज्यादा श्राप हो गया है, तो आपको इसको दूसरा कहीं पे ले जाना पड़ेगा. So that is when the relatives will take the patient to a hospital. Now that is already the time is lost, and the patient will die in the hospital. Now what the news will come out? The news will come out that the patient was taken to the hospital and he died in the hospital. So because of that, in a rural community, there is a misconception about hospitals and the usage of antivenom. Yes, we need a lot of awareness about antivenom, and we should say that if it is snake bite, the only solution is the antivenom, nothing else. Unfortunately, there are a lot of quacks, and there are a lot of practitioners who talk about various things. There are various medicines which are supposed to be used for snake bites other than antivenom, which is fairly useless. It should not be practiced, and it should not be promoted at all. Now, the other question which you asked was about, sorry, Abhishek, it was
database of hospitals which carry antivenom.
Yeah, so I was just missing it. Yes, in the Serpent app, there is a database of all the hospitals, which are taluk level hospitals and district level hospitals and medical colleges where antivenom is supposed to be available. We called up many hospitals. I can tell you that whatever hospitals we have listed, about 70% of the hospital, they do have antivenom, but it differ from states to state. Some states will have a very good response level when we called up and they said they do have antivenom. I mean, we never called up and asked whether you have antivenom. We actually pretended that there is a snake bite case and asked the hospital whether can we bring the patient to the hospital. So a lot of hospitals responded positively. There is a huge difference between states. I'll tell you very frankly, Bihar, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, there is a problem, and even in UP there is a problem of antivenom. And most of the northeastern state smaller hospitals and taluk level hospitals, there is no antivenom, or they're not prepared to deal with a snake bite emergency. So there is a need for creating awareness about antivenom, but before creating that awareness, we should ensure that these hospitals are equipped to treat snake bites. Please remember that snake bite treatment is not very costly if you do it in the right way, because some of the super specialty hospitals charge 10 lakhs 15 lakhs rupees for a treatment, where many hospitals at ground level hospitals, private hospitals, charging 5,000 6,000 rupees for snake bite treatment. Dr. PC Patel, I should take his name, in Valsad in Gujarat, treats a large number of tribal patients. I've recently been there. In Kedar also was there. Interestingly, between me and Kedar, we were standing in the hospital and we had 6 cases, if I'm not mistaken, 6 cases of snake bites in 15-20 minutes, which came to the hospital. Probably we went there on the wrong time to see the thing. But he was calmly treating patients. And when we asked him about the cost of treatment, he was actually laughing and said that what this poor people can pay me. I mean, whatever they pay me, I'll take. So hospitals like this actually play a major role. So we have to create awareness, but at the same time, we have to ensure that the hospitals do have antivenom. I will say that for that, you need a policy level change at government level, where we have to work with government officials and the system to ensure that there is antivenom in hospitals.
Thank you, Jose. Yes, I think that answers what Vishal and Kedar had a point to make on the earlier questions. So I'll go to Kedar first with respect to Sharda's question on sensitizing rural children and how can we do it. I think you have some examples and case studies and experiences.
Thanks, Abhishek. Shardaji, your question was how to go beyond awareness. Actually, when we talk about awareness today, our awareness ends into by doing programs, 1 or 2 hours program in a different public places. But I think when we started now working on two I's, basically I call it a two I, institutionalize and innovativeness. So we need to reach these children by different innovative ways, One is the innovative ways by doing songs or doing certain small documentaries which can be given on a WhatsApp and on mobile, because the children are aware about mobile. I can tell you one example of innovativeness which Madras Crocodile Bank Trust did in between, where through a notebook manufacturers, they put a snakebite information and a first aid in a local language on notebooks cover and back page, and donated more than 20,000 notebooks across rural areas of Tamil Nadu, I think. So those kind of innovative ways to take awareness to the children need to be developed. The beyond that awareness, because awareness has to be there, only delivery need to be looked upon. We need to reach the children in a different ways. Like Snakebite Healing Society did those small movies in different local languages to reach local population. And the another thing which I need to do, or we trying to do, is with the state education departments, get snakebite and snakebite awareness into their primary education. Like they have malaria, they have diarrhea, they have everything in their primary education, but they do not have a snakebite into their primary educations. So get a small chapters on these into the institutionalized lessons, or a chapters into primary education is one way. But I think today's whole mobile technology, we need to be more innovative about how we deliver our awareness to those population more. I think so.
Thank you, Kedar. I think that's a very value addition to the question that was there, having curriculum-based studies and thinking. Vishal had something to add on the aspect of religion and myths associated and worshipping serpent gods in northeast and Bangladesh, the area that he's also. Vishal, would you like to add something?
Yeah, so we see this trend like almost across India. Snakes are worshipped, and we can take up certain religions and look into how they perceive snakes in a religious way. So I'm just giving an example. So in West Bengal, there is a snake goddess called Manasha, and like everybody worships her in fear of snakes, so that nobody gets bitten by snakes and all that stuff. And there is an epic poetry called Manisha Mangal, where a husband gets bitten by a snake because he was cursed by Manasha, the goddess, and his wife takes her husband's lifeless body to the heaven and asks back his life, and the gods are kind of impressed that she loves her husband so much and all that, and they give his life back. How we interpret in villages is that and this is based on Hindu religion. So I explained this entire thing to our audience where there are maximum Hindu people, that in Hinduism we have a concept that heaven is somewhere above the Himalayas, above the Kailash. So if according to the poetry, if she had taken her husband's lifeless body to the heavens, why did she go downstream in the Ganges towards the Sundarbans? She should have gone upstream towards Haridwar, right? So we confuse them with the stories that they believe very dearly. That you should have asked this question. Then why did she go to Sundarbans? Because Manasa had a research station in the Sundarbans, because there are lots of snakes there, and she could have been the first female herpetologist, in the world. Who knows? And that's where she kind of told the wife that the snake that he has been bitten by is a Crystopelia. It's a hornet flying snake, which is a harmless snake. So he has suffered a minor vasovagal attack and he has fainted. Just sprinkle some water on his face and just fan him a little bit. He'll come back to life. But if you write this stuff in a poetry, nobody's going to read that, right? It's just like how you sell Complan and Horlicks on TV. You need to add those, ornamentations like DHA, and you have to place two kids side by side. One is taller and one is shorter. The taller one drinks Complan. And these are the things that we kind of interpret in different folklores that relates to religion, that's related to snakes and snake bites. And that helps. A similar thing of that, all of you must know that the Samudra Manthan, where Vish and Amrit came out, and everybody's worried about what will happen if that wish spreads across the world and all that stuff. And Shiva came forward and he said that I'll drink it and I'll store it in my throat. And he became a hero overnight because he is one of the best politicians among the 33 crore gods and goddesses that we have. And he is technically not a god, he's a Adi yogi who kind of understands, and he is the only Indian god to kind of, have snakes all around him all the time. So he knows stuff about snakes. He knows that if he doesn't have a cut in his mouth, if he doesn't have an ulcer or any kind of laceration in his alimentary system, the venom's not going to affect him. So he drank it. He drank it, and if he says all this stuff, his that political, a statement will not stay among 33 crore gods and goddesses. So he said that I stored it in my throat. What he did was he drank it and he passed it out the next day. So we just kind of demythifying the folklores in the most simplest and the most realistic way that the people can perceive. Can go a long way in kind of keeping religion and snakebite separate.
Yes, very interesting story. I have read about, I have come across the mention of Mansa and how it's been connected. So I mean, I do agree and feel sometimes mythology has something related to reality, and a lot of times actually to reality, and it's just the stories that build and most of it being poems and full of metaphors and similes. It becomes a completely different thing. We have just come almost close to the end. In fact, we're 5 minutes over thing. Any particular point, Abhijita, I would like to ask. I mean, people are asking about how students, how researchers. You did mention how they can help in awareness and data collection. Would you like to add a point on that?
Well, I think we discussed most of it, but because it's a Corona time and a lot of researchers may be sitting in their home, so they can take up very small topic and they can write something about it. For example, and those information will be critical in conservation of the species also. For example, what is the variation of size differences in Indian snakes? And these literatures, they just need to do a literature search, okay, and find out species wise size differences. And if they can find that out across the year, they can actually get a trend whether body size is increasing or decreasing, right? And also something related to also, say for example, body size and the clutch size. And there is not one single place information available for how many eggs a snake lay, right? So if they can collate all those information and publish, that will be a really nice contribution to the snake and the science of snake in our country.
Right. Thank you, Vijit. I think people can take. I can see a message that has come from 11-year-old boy, Advait, who's been here, who's been listening to it, and I think this session was a little too heavy for him. But we have their email IDs. We will definitely try and engage them later. With problem with digital platform is that you get a varied. We have one more 11-year-old, Abula.
I think they were expecting more snakes
Yes,
during the
yes,
live.
yes. People did think that we'll bring snakes and show snakes. I'm sorry, we cannot do that for legal reasons, which is the next question, that last question that I wanted to put, because every time legalities have to be followed. Jose, who's an expert, who's the chief of enforcement in WTI, uh, do you go to can one go to a jail if you handle a snake, and why?
Yeah, let me wear my enforcement cap and answer that.
Yes.
All the snakes which are found naturally in India are protected under the Wildlife Protection Act. So that is my answer. They are wild animals, or they are part of wildlife. So possession of a snake without a valid paperwork documentation is a punishable offense. If it is a Schedule 1 or a Schedule 2 Part 2 snake, for example, a cobra, Russell's viper, rat snake, these are protected in Schedule 1 and Schedule 2 Part 2, or a python, it is a cognizable offense. So where you can be booked by a forest officer or a police officer, and it is non-bailable. So you don't get a bail immediately. So you have to face the legal proceedings against you. So holding a snake, keeping a snake in captivity in your house, it is illegal and it is a punishable offense in India. Now, having said that, the exotic species, there are a lot of people must be talking and thinking about exotic species. Exotic species are not covered under the Wildlife Protection Act, but there are other things like the Biodiversity Act and all, which may attract punishments. And also, you have to be very careful about what kind of species which you are holding. So, my answer is a snake which is found naturally in India cannot be kept as a pet, and it is a punishable offense. And even snake rescuers, if any of the snake rescuers are watching this, because this is a very related question, there is no rescue in the Wildlife Protection Act. When you are rescuing a snake, you are actually committing an action of hunting. Your act of hunting is what is happening. You're restraining a snake. So that will be treated as a hunting. So if you capture a snake and keep it in a bottle, you're already committed a severe offense, hunting. So be careful when you deal with snakes. Without proper permissions from the forest department, you're not supposed to touch a snake and even rescue the snake. So that is very clear.
Thank you, Josh. I think that was the answer to a lot of people asking they wanted to see snakes on this thing. So unfortunately, we can't show those snakes.
No snake shows here.
No snake shows here. We don't encourage. So I think that ends the World Snake Day session. I hope that at least a few people who came with the idea of attending this did get to learn something new, get to know something information, and which will help them see ahead. I'm sorry, we didn't have time to take up all the questions. I know there are a lot of questions on YouTube and this thing. So what I'll urge is that we have all the 4 speakers and me. There's five of us. I'm going to post all our names on the chat window, because we won't have too much time to note down our emails and all. And all 5 of us, or at least Abhijita, you are also on Facebook, if I'm not mistaken. Vishal is not.
He is not on Facebook.
Abhijita is not on. Vishal is not on. But you can Google any 5 of us and you'll get some of the way you can connect to us. Mostly you'll get an email. That's why I've given the institutional affiliation as well. So if you search us, and we will be able to help you out with any resources that you need, any questions that you need, any places that you want to ask. There was a question from a doctor which I unfortunately couldn't take because it would be a little out of time from here, but I would urge such people to get in touch with us. There was a veterinarian who also asked about snake bites in animals, so such people should actually engage with all the 5 people and many more people who are involved and doing an exemplary work in this field. And so thank you all the speakers, all the 4 speakers, Abhijita, Kedar, Jose, and Vishal, for spending so much time.
Thank you, Abhishek.
And it was a good talking. I felt like that all 5 of us were sitting and talking on a nice evening in the forest. Unfortunately, at least 4 of us are in a town and Jose is in the forest.
He's always lucky one.
He's always lucky one.
I'll do the honors after this meeting.
Yes. Everyone shall. So thank you, and an excellent session. And
thank you
be
for
safe.
moderating it so very well.
No problem. That's I love doing it. So thank you, Ragini, for also being there. And have a good day, have a good night, and be safe. Thank you.
You guys too. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, guys.